Hello guys, my name is Diego Pacheco and this is gonna be another Java video. Today we're gonna talk about Spring capability of injecting properties. Specifically, we're gonna cover the @value annotation. Um, I have some code here I want to share so we can take a look and in some features that this annotation has. There's multiple features there that are actually quite useful. And also want to share some consideration and some best practices working with property files in Java, right? Without further ado, let's get right into it. So here I have some POC I did. Let me open my idea here and we can start from there. So first of all, like always, we're gonna start with the dependencies. I'm using Maven here. So let me open my pom.xml. And here, as you guys can see, I'm using Spring version 2.4.5, right? One of the latest versions right now. And basically I have the standard dependencies like starter web, starter test, and JUnit, and that's it. All right. So my application, right, has nothing special. It's annotated at Spring Boot application, enable auto configuration, and a component scan for my package, right? But here I have a bin, which is a command line runner, which so this is gonna run as soon as this app boots, right? And I'm gonna print a bunch of things here. So I'm gonna try to get a specific bin called props bin, and then with this bin, I'm gonna get lots of things. Like I'm gonna get the environment, I'm gonna get a port, I'm gonna get what's the Java home, I'm gonna get an answer, and again, I'm gonna get the system props. All right, that's what we will do. And if we talk about this bin, this is where I'm playing with lots of things with the @value annotation, right? So here, there's a couple of things, right? First of all, we have the configuration, because that's how in Spring this allows us to have bins that have configs. And let's say I want to load a specific properties file, right? So by default, the application.properties will be loaded, all right? So I'm doing some tricky thing here where you can see I have two props. I have service.env and I have service.port, right? So env is dev and port is 880. So this application.property is going to be loaded by default. But however, as you can see here in my property source, right, this is also loading a second property file, which is services.override.properties, right? So if I look that file here, you can see I'm overriding the port, but this will be some strange behavior. Will not be as you guys expect, right? Because we expect this to be override, right? But it's not what's gonna happen. So basically, here in this pojal, right, I have an env, I have a port, I have a Java home, I have an answer, and I have a map of strings about the system properties, right? And in order to inject properties, we could use this @value annotation from Spring, all right? And like for instance here, we're looking for the property called service env, right? And here we're looking for service port, right? But here we have something interesting. So we're looking for a system property called unknown. And if I can't find that, actually, I'm gonna use this as my default Java home folder. All right. So it's interesting because we can do conditionals here to load things. And here we can even delegate to bins, right? Like answer of the universe is a bin, and then I'm getting the get method there. So for instance, if you look here, we have the answer of the universe being returned here, and is this name is answer of the universe. So if you look this bin answer of the universe, it has a method get which return 42. So here we actually can invoke a bin to get the value from the property, right? So that's pretty cool. And we also can do stuff like this, system properties, where we get the whole map of system properties and we inject here. So @value in Spring has lots of power, and with power you get responsibility. So I also want to show how we can do some sort of a troubleshooting. So I create this bin debugger where we sort of can print the props we have and where they came from. And I feel like this is useful for you to figure out who is loading what, right? So now that you saw that, let's run the application. And then I want to, cover some considerations about properties and best practices. So let's run it. So, okay, so we have our Spring Boot app 245 running. And here we can see our bin debugger, all right? And we can see the sources we have. We have a map property source. In there, we have the name, which is server.ports, right? We have a configuration property source property, which we have like name, which is a configuration properties. And if we keep going, we're gonna see that we have more stuff here, right? So we have, let me scroll. We have a bunch of things coming up here. And we can see here who is loading and what property is being loaded, right? So that's quite cool for troubleshooting. In here, I'm printing the list of all sources, right? So, and what they're bringing to the table. So you can see that we have system properties, system environment, hand-on. There is something on my class path, which is the application properties. We also can see another class path result with my service override properties. And I'm just counting how many props we have here, right? So that's a good way for you to debug. And here is this prints I'm putting here, right? So we can see that it worked, it resolved all the properties, right? So that are the powers of the at value annotation. And now talking about sort of a best practices with properties, right? Although here in my POC, you see that I have these files here. Often, it's not a good idea to have these versions in libraries, right? So basically, if you have a service, it's fine. But if you have a library, ideally, you don't want to do that. You want to have some external application that loads that properties on the machine, all right? Because this can create several issues for you in your application. So if you have a services, it's fine to have properties there, but for libraries, you definitely should avoid. You definitely should avoid putting these in jars, and you actually want to decouple that from the application, and you want to have something in your infrastructure which is capable to loading that properties for you. And that's a very old principle. So if we think about the 12 factor app, that was already a principle back onto the days, all right, where you actually want to bind the properties at runtime rather than being hard coded on your application. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you guys like it. See you next time. Take care. Cheers.